All right. Everyone still seeing the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I am.
Lesson 29, the principal parts. We're going to look at the principal parts. There are 6 principal parts. Much of this material is review of what we've already covered. There are 6 principal parts. Right here are the 6 down here. The present, future, aorist, perfect, and perfect middle, and aorist passive. These are your forms, your principal parts. Now, each of these presents a tense stem. These stems are then to use construct all tenses and all moods and voices within this table down here. All right. Some verbs have more than 6 forms. For instance, we have first and second aorist. We have variations of some verbs. Some verbs have 2 forms. Maybe the old classical form hung on, and it's in some of our writings, and in other places, a different form of the verb might be used. That's why you have more than 6. Many verbs, however, don't have a full complement of 6. We're going to see a table down, and we're going to see some that don't. Some forms have dropped out of usage. All right. And we have other verbs that take different roots from the different forms, and that's like in English, am, was, and been. And we've seen those already. We'll see some more down here. All right. Now, let's look at our chart. Are there questions about this? Principal parts. Oh, before we get into this too far, lesson 30 is not in your book. Okay. I was working on it. I looked up and I was working on lesson 31. I said, hey, we just did lesson 29. We hadn't had 30. It's not even in the book. So I found it and put it in the book. So I will, after I go back through it one more time to edit it, just to be sure I've got all the bugs out of it, I'll send it to you in the next few days. Before next Monday, I'll send it to you. Okay. So your next, it'll have lesson 30 in it. It's not in your book if you look. Any questions there? So I just thought I'd remind you you'll be getting it. So you want to be sure and use the new copy. And I found several mistakes in the book already. We keep finding them, of course. You know, we're going to keep editing the book. Our chart of principal parts here are present. The present form has a present stem. Your present stem of luo is lu. That's your present stem. And so the tense made from it, you'll have all your present in all moods and voices. Your present tense in all moods and voices will use that present stem. Your imperfect will also, in all moods and voices, will use that present stem. Use that same stem. Any comments there? Now let's go over and look and see how that works and see what that means. Okay, we go to our table, our paradigm table that I sent you. I added to this about a week ago. I started adding on to it. I added to it. So there's some additions, and James sent me some corrections on it. So I had messed up. Thank you, James. All right. So here's our stem. That's our verb stem right there, lu. And so we have lu, and we put o, ace, a, omen, ete, usi. That's our basic form. So you have your stem, just add o, ace, a, omen, ete, usi. And that will be your present tense, and that will be active voice. It's labeled, it's not labeled here active, is it? Okay. But this is active voice, okay? All right, your imperfect. Let's take down here in the middle voice, in all your voices, in the present tense, and all your moods, and voices and tenses, moods, it has the same stem. It has the same stem all the way through. And so you have lu, it'd be omai, a, etai, omatha, este, ontai. That will be your middle form. Remember also the passive will be the same as that. So again, you take your verb stem, just add omai, a, etai, omatha, esse, ontai. Same thing will happen with your passive, omai, a, take your verb stem, omai, let me do that again. You have omai, a, etai, omatha, esse, ontai, same as your middle voice. Any questions there? So we're going to use this same stem when we get into the imperative and subjunctive and optative moods. So all the way through it follows. Let's go back over to this again and see it again. Right here, we have that verb stem, the present and the imperfect. We'll look at the imperfect next. And all moods and voices have the same stem. It doesn't change the stem. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So that gets a good portion of our verbs. They're just regular as they can be. Any questions? All right, let's go to the imperfect. Let's go back over and look at the imperfect now. The imperfect has the same as the present stem, lu in this case, puts an augment on it all the way down. Then it has on, ace, a, or may have movable nu, omen, ete, on. And so notice here, ete and omatha are the same. And so two of those are the same as the present. All the difference is just augment. But these other four are different endings. But they're regular. That is, the imperfect will have these same endings all the way through. Okay. That will be, this is active voice here. All right, this is active voice. Other questions about that? We're still using that present tense stem. Now come down here, we have down here, there's your stem again. We put an augment on the front of it. Now understand the augment may become an eta depending on what letter we started the stem with. But in this case, we have a consonant, so it's an epsilon. Then omain, u, eto, omatha, esse, onto. That will be your middle. So you just take your stem and add augment, omain, u, eto, omatha, esse, onto. Same endings down here for the passive voice. Take your stem, put an augment, omain, u, eto, omatha, esse, onto. Any questions? That's your rule. That's always going to work with your imperfect. Any questions? It's regular as it can be. Okay. Now let's go back to the next one. Again, these are on the table. I had to add some more tables to make sure I had all this covered. So I did that. I did that nearly a week ago. Okay. So we got that on or a few days ago, several days ago. All right, the future, their stem for it is this right here. So the stem changes on the future, it adds a sigma to it. That's all it does. It just takes your present stem and adds a sigma to it. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So that's your future. But that gets the future active and middle. Now, why doesn't it get the passive? Someone help me. What did we learn? Are the future middle and future passive the same form?
No.
No. So that's why the passive doesn't get into this. It only works on the future active and middle. Does anyone see that? Let's go back over here and look at our paradigm chart. So right here we have, there's your new stem. So the stem changed. It added a sigma to the present tense stem, and that's all it did. So we have O, ace, a, o, ete, usi. Well, I be. It's the same endings as the present tense. It's just got a sigma. That's pretty consistent. Pretty easy to follow there, isn't it? Any questions? All right. Let's take our future middle, and notice we got over here in the present middle, we have an oh my. So all we do is put a sigma on it, and guess what? It becomes oh my again. Oh my, Just same as a, eti, omatha, esse, onti. Same endings except a sigma. That's for the middle voice. Any questions? It's pretty consistent so far. Anybody have a problem with this? Any questions about it? All right, let's go back. This is your principal parts. So far, it's been really straightforward stuff, hasn't it? And we can see why the passive voice didn't go in over here on it, because it's going to be different. Middle and passive are different forms in the future tense. So that's why the middle isn't over here with this. Let's take our aorist, and we got the aorist. And so we got a first and second aorist. That kind of throws us off a little bit, but we'll go into that in just a minute. The aorist, active and middle voices. Now, why isn't the passive the same? Same as the future, same answer. The middle and the passive are different forms in the aorist and future. That's the only two that are different forms. So we're going to have it's going to cover the active in the middle, but it won't cover the passive. Aorist passive is down here at the bottom. Okay. So let's go over and look at our paradigm chart. Unless there are questions. Any questions before I go away from this? All right. Let's go over here. Let's go to our aorist. We've done the present, imperfect, and future. Let's try our aorist. Now, right here, you have this form right here, and you change the stem stays the same as the future stem. Okay, here was your future stem, and so it has the same stem as the future. All right. Or we usually say the future has the same stem as the aorist, but it's 6 one way, half a dozen the other. So right here, that's our stem, same as the future stem. And so we just add an augment, and so augment all the way down. We have a os, a, and that would be a whatever amen, ate, on. And so we have here, we take our stem, and we just add an augment, an os, take our stem, a new stem, same as the future stem, remember, and add an a, an epsilon, or an augment. And we have here our stem again. We add an augment, an amen, and a stem, and add an ate, an augment, an ate, and a stem, and add an on, or an augment, and an on. And again, that's your rule. That's your first aorist. Any questions there? Okay. Now, what we get over on our second aorist is what we have, and we still have this basic stem right here, but we don't have a sigma on it. All right, doesn't have a sigma. Okay, but the on, it has an on ending, ace, and that's the same as imperfect. You look over here, same ending as imperfect. Okay. All right, so let's go back. Let's go back to our first aorist again. We have the middle, aorist middle, and so there's your stem. Come down to it, and we have an augment all the way down. And again, it won't always be an epsilon, but it'll be an epsilon a good portion of the time. If you have it already begins with an alpha, for instance, it will make it a long, and so it'll make it a lengthen, which becomes an eta. There's your stem, augment, amen, and again your stem, and augment, and o, augment, and auto, stem, augment, and amatha, and right here stem, augment, and asse, and our stem, augment, and onto. Any questions? Again, the paradigm chart shows it for you. Now, you can take your paradigm chart and print it out and write notes all over it if you want to. That's yours to do it. You can even take and write notes, type notes in on electronic form with your paradigm chart. But the problem with it is, if I send you a new paradigm chart, you'll have to transfer your notes over. So you got to be aware of that if you take notes on it. All right. All right. Any questions? All right. We're not looking at the me verbs right now. Okay. All right. The perfect. That's your fourth principal part, and so it's a comma perfect, first perfect. The perfect and pluperfect active are the same. Now our problem is we don't have pluperfect on this paradigm chart. So perfect and pluperfect active are the same. So let's go over to our paradigm chart, and the next page where I put this extra paradigm chart on. There's your perfect active, and so we have a Leilu, and so what we have here is okay. There's your stem changed, and so we have a cos, k, common, kate, kasi. Those are your endings. So there's your stem. That will be, let me here, because, and the stem again, k, common, come on, kate, kasi. Those are your endings. Now we come over here to the pluperfect active, which this is new to your paradigm chart. I just added it to it. And we have here, there's your stem. The pluperfect, sometimes, not always, the old classical pluperfect added an augment to it. So some of our verbs will have augments and some won't. All right. And so we have lelukain, and so our ending is different, see? So we don't have to have the augment if our endings are different. Look at your endings, they're all different. Every one of them are different. And so the endings being different, the augment's unnecessary to distinguish it pluperfect and perfect. Sometimes the augment's there, sometimes it's not. Right? There's your stem, augment sometimes. That's what that parentheses means. Cain, and again, we'll try it. Case. All right, come on, baby. K. Cayman. Kete. Quezon. Okay. Remember, the epsilon iota is like the EI in rain, R-E-A-I-N. Take the word, the English word rain, and it sounds, the epsilon iota sounds like that EI in rain. That's one of the first things he tells you in our book. Rain, okay? That's how we pronounce it in this book. So that gets your perfect and pluperfect. So again, they're on this new paradigm chart, okay? Any questions about that? So we've covered the fourth principal part. All right. Let's go to the perfect middle now. The perfect middle is right here, leilumai. And so there's your stem again. And it's a my ending, okay? And what follows that pattern? The perfect and pluperfect middle, and the passive future perfect. So we got a future perfect. Now the future perfect's not found very many times, but I put your future perfect paradigm on here. It's not in this book. I got it from another book. So I got it out of another book just to be sure I had it right. Okay, I hunted around and found it. Didn't do it on my own, okay? Sorry about that. So that's it. Perfect middle, perfect and pluperfect middle, and passive future perfect, okay? So we have perfect and pluperfect middle. So let's go back to our chart. Perfect and pluperfect middle and future passive. Those are the ones that have the same form. So let's look at them here now. There's your stem. See the duplication, reduplication. All right. And so we have that reduplication. And right here, we added a psi to it, tie, metha, usay, untai. Okay. Tie, nuntai. Just don't pronounce the upsilon with it because it's part of your stem. So right here, untai would be your, the nu gets pronounced with the epsilon, okay? But that's your endings. Are there questions? And again, now the pluperfect, because it's past tense, say, what it does, it adds an augment and the middle passive, and then the ending is main. And again, let's take our stem. Remember, it'll be the perfect stem. So, augment with so, and then augment with to, and augment with metha, augment with esthe, and then the stem, augment with nunto. Hard for me to pronounce the nunto without a vowel in front of it. Are there questions? Okay. All right, let's go to the future perfect passive. These forms won't all be in the New Testament, okay? So right here there's your stem. And so what we have is we have a somai, say, and setai, somatha, esthe, sontai. I'll do the stems again, but you can see right there, that's your stem and that's your ending. So take the stem and add somai to it, and that'll be future perfect passive. Future perfect passive. There's your stem and there's your endings for the future perfect passive. And I don't know, there's not very many future perfects in the New Testament. I know there's one in the book of Hebrews, and there's a couple of others scattered around. All right. Any questions? Let me go through all of these and let you see them. There's your stem and there's your ending, setai. Again, there's your stem and somatha, that's your ending. There's your stem and sesthe. There's your stem and sontai. Again, I think these paradigm charts kind of help you see them and put it all together. Any questions about that? All right. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, let's go back to our original one. And we had the passive future perfect. We just did that. Pluperfect middle and perfect middle. We did those. Did I do both those? I think I did both of them, didn't I? I did the perfect, pluperfect, and the perfect passive. Yes, I did. Okay. All right. Aorist passive. So here's your stem. And they add a theta to it. So they take the stem and add a theta to it. Your aorist passive. So that becomes your new stem. Okay. So that's our new stem. So let's take an aorist and future passive. Let's go back over the table. And we got the aorist and future passive. I put them together so we can see how they fit. Any questions there so far before I go into it? Okay. So here's my stem. And so I take it, and you'll see right there, there's your stem. Augment for aorist, makes it past tense. Ain, augment again. And augment an ace. Again, augment. A, and augment stem. Augment an amen. And the form almost looks like omen, doesn't it, what we learned at the beginning. So it almost looks the same sometimes. And augment, stem, ete. Sounds almost like ete, doesn't it? Pretty close. and elu, asin. And so we have augment, stem, asin. Okay, any question about the aorist passive? All right, let's take our stem, lu. There's your stem. And so we have asomi, that's future passive. And we take our stem. We have ase, and take our stem. Acetai, take our stem and put asomatha, and we have luth, and take our stem and put acesthai, take our stem, asontai. All right. I think these paradigm charts now are set up so we can use them and see the ones that go together. These go together, put them side by side. These three go together. And these two right here go together, okay? Now, are there questions about the 6 principal parts? I'm gonna go back then. So we've covered all of what this is all about. Does that kind of get rid of some of the mystery? Okay, hopefully I've clarified a bit of the mystery that's involved here. Are there questions before I move on? No questions? I either thoroughly snowed you or we made it clear. I don't know which it is, okay? All right. And he tells us it will be seen that the principal parts are cited in the first personal singular of each of the forms, which the verb occurs. So if we take the first personal singular, we'll always have that principal part in it of each of the forms. Let's go back and see what he's saying there. Okay, let's look at it. Let's go with this one right here. The first person singular, and you see it right there. There's your stem. You see right across. First person singular, there's your stem. There's your stem, first person singular. You see them right across there. All right. All right. Let's see. All right. He tells us to know a verb, one must know its principal parts. Well, this is, once you learn all of this, you've got your verbs down pretty good. Any questions about this? Now, hopefully these paradigm charts will give you a pattern. What I do when I'm translating, working like on the book of Romans or some other book, I do it without the helps. And then I double check myself to make sure I got it right. And I pat myself on the back if I got it right. Does that make sense? It's kind of like give me an attaboy. You got it right this time. That's what I do. And so when I'm doing my work in a text of the Bible, I figure out what I think it is, and then I look it up just to be sure I'm right. Now, I know it's cheating a little bit to use an analytical lexicon, but that's what I do. Because when I'm teaching it, I don't want to have it in my notes wrong. But I play the game with myself. I try to make sure I can do it. I try to do it without the helps. Okay? That helps. I think that helps you to learn. Okay? All right? He uses the Latin, which I don't know much Latin, and the French, I don't know any French. I know just a few words. We sang Frere Jacques when I was in school, Dormez-vous and so forth. So I know a few French words. Probably don't even pronounce them correctly. And the French are pretty upset with you if you don't pronounce their language right. Now, any questions? All right. The regular patterns, some types of verbs treat all verbs of the same type as models. And of course, luo is a model. It's a model for all the forms. There's two reasons they use luo, because it's a model verb for all the forms, and it's a very short stem, okay? So that's very helpful. I think there's some other verbs that are models as well under but some of them are longer verbs. Now, we have regular vowel and diphthong stems. Here's the pattern for that. Now, what they're doing for you here is they're giving you the basic first person singular. So you can get the root off it, the stem, and then you can add your endings to it. So if you go to a paradigm chart, you can see the endings. But they've given you this, and instead of giving you a full paradigm, they've given you the first person singular form. So you can take your root and add to it with the paradigms. You make your own paradigm. Okay. And of course, we did add a sigma to it here, right? See? So if that's the case, we just add the sigma. This is present, this is future. What is the basic stem? Here. Right there, isn't it? All right, that's for present tense. And there's your future tense stem. Okay. They just added a sigma to the present tense stem. All right. There's your stem. And so they added an augment and a saw to it. Let's go back and see how that fits on our pattern over here. All right. And so that's future. Which one are we on? I'm sorry. Go back to what I was looking at. That's present. This is aorist. Okay, we got to go to the aorist. Got the aorist. We have our stem. We have an augment and a saw. So let's take a look at it. We have our stem, augment, and a saw. So that's your stem. That's how you find your stem right there. See how that works? Any questions? And right down here is a stem. And that's a stem down here. And right here is your stem with the augment and the my endings. So you can find your stem on those right there. Other questions? I've been having throat trouble for about a month now. I don't know what that means, but it's kind of a pain in the neck. A little tickling in the back of my throat.
I do have a question.
Okay.
On the future, I believe you included the sigma as part of the stem, but on the aorist, you did not include sigma as part of that stem.
I think I'm wrong. I think the sigma is part of the stem.
Okay.
I think I messed up. I think it takes the same stem as the future. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for calling my attention to it. Okay. All right. Let's hear. But it has that sigma, but that's part of your stem. Okay. Some of your short vowel stems, L, they'll have to be contract verbs that become contract verbs in this case here. O can contract on you. Okay. This may be a mistake. I might better look at that. Should have been payroll. Yes, that should have a circumflex. That wasn't right. I looked at that. I saw that. I missed it. Okay. Well, it'll be fixed now. Okay, it's fixed. Okay. That should be a circumflex. Okay. All right. He has the me verbs down here and how this is tithemy. And let's take and go down, and he goes through the various forms, lingual, labial, palatals, me verbs, and liquids. Some of the rules for them. Let's look at principal parts of some verbs which are irregular. I would like to get through this. We have irregular verbs. These are the list of the irregular verbs in the New Testament. Is that clear? You have all of them listed here. They're irregular. Ago is irregular. I lead. Oxo, there's your future form. See, so it doesn't, there's your stem, and it's not a gamma anymore. See, because if you put a gamma and a sigma together, you get a C. That's what you get for putting a gamma and a sigma together. So it becomes irregular. And that's strictly irregular because of the blending of the two letters, and you can't put those two letters in there. You can't put a gamma and a sigma together and pronounce them. It's a euphonics problem. Now then, the aorist is a completely different form, say, and so what we have is we have a ga, and so we have this right here. That's our new stem. There's your augment. So it does change. There's no perfect form of this word. Doesn't exist in the New Testament. Middle is this form, and the aorist passive is this form over here. Again, everything is different all the way across on it. It's irregular. I reo, I choose. And again, it's irregular all the way across. I row is a raise. And so right here, what you get is you get an omega with a circumflex. So it does change. So it's irregular. And this form here, they're all irregular across. Right? Now, this basic stem over here looks pretty much like it's like this right here. It's got the same stem right here, and here, and here. So these are regular with one another, but they're irregular with this over here. And this is irregular with everything. I don't know about going through all of these, but you have this table here. This will show you all of them that are irregular. Now, guess what I've done in your book? All right, in this file right here, which is Greek lexicon and grammar notes, I put all of these irregular verbs in that file. In other words, all of these verbs are in that file. Every one of them are. All these verbs are in that file, and they're listed as irregular. And where they're irregular, I've listed them. Okay, right. So they are listed as irregular, and so you've got a warning if you go into that file. You can say this is an irregular verb. Other questions? Some of these are found quite a lot in the New Testament, like akuo, I hear, I die, I go, I throw, bulomai, I wish or will, inomai, ginosko. These are here quite a lot. So these are there a fair amount of time. But some of these don't even exist in the New Testament. For like Amy, Amy does not exist in all in the perfect middle or aorist passive form. Doesn't exist. Right? It only exists in these forms right here. Present, and then you got your future and aorist, and that's it. That's the only forms that exist in. Okay. All right. Ericomai doesn't exist in these two forms. So the blank spaces mean it doesn't exist in those forms. Okay, questions? All right. Again, some words may take other verbs to do the action of the, like the future. All right. Here's your future table. Let me show you. That's your future column. So running probably doesn't have, may use a different word in the future. Okay? but does have an aorist form. So that's your aorist form. Right? But it's a different word. Look at it. Very different word. Again, it's like English, go and gone. They're from different. English is a conglomeration of 3 major languages and a whole bunch of other minor stuff thrown in. It makes it harder to learn. Sometimes the rules don't work very well. All right? Other questions? Now, what we're going to do next week, I'm going to do something else. We're going to go through, we'll go back and review these questions, and we'll go into text A and work it for next week. I want to go over into this file right here. We had some questions last week about prepositions, some prepositions. Verbs compounded with apo, ek, and para, in the very nature of the case, take the ablative where these prepositions bring the verbality of separation. Now it's Dana and Mandy. All right. Now remember, prepositions originally were adverbs. And when you compound them, they still are adverbs. Now I'm going to write a word up here. This word right here in Greek, apolobano. I don't have my diacritical mark, but smooth breathing here, apolobano. This word is a compound word. So the compounding occurred right there. That's where the compounding occurred. It occurred right there. And then what he's saying in this preposition apo becomes, it goes back to what it originally was. It becomes an adverb in this form. So it becomes an adverb because that's what it was originally. So it reverts back to being an adverb. All right. And again, an adverb will modify your verbs. Let's look at a couple of other points here. We can get the cart before the horse if we're not careful. When we looked at it, we're going to look at some prepositions right quick. We'll probably lap over just a little bit. But the case calls in the preposition to aid in expressing more sharply the meaning of the case. It is the case that indicates meaning of the preposition and not the preposition which gives meaning to a case. Then strictly speaking, prepositions in Greek do not govern cases. Is that clear? Don't get it backwards. Prepositions do not govern cases, but more clearly define them. That's Robertson. None. Prepositions do not, properly speaking, govern the cases which they precede. Why are they telling you this? Because students get the wrong idea. They will see apo, which takes the ablative case. And they'll say, well, that governs that case. No. The fact that it was ablative case, the writer intended it to be ablative case, is the reason he chose apo. It was ablative case, and that's why he chose apo, because that's the preposition that went with the ablative case. Apo didn't make it ablative. It was ablative before he put apo on it. Does that make sense? Everyone got that? That's what they're trying to tell you here. Several of your prepositions can take more than one case, sometimes 2 or 3 cases, oblique cases. All right? And so right here, some of them can. So strictly speaking, we have to look at the case of the noun to tell what that preposition means. Now let's go down to some prepositions. There are 2 kinds of prepositions. And here's some more of your rules. This is in that file that I sent you about page 382. Amphi. Okay, amphitheater. See, probably comes from that. It's from 2 Greek words. This is not in the New Testament as a separate word, but it's in a compound form several times. And it means about or on both sides, around, okay? So there's 2 kinds of prepositions. There's some that are only attached to words. They're not separate, never are separate. And there's some that are separate and then also attached. Any questions? You can get them both. Let's take ana, for example. Let's just take it. We give the root meaning is up, but in composition means up or back again. Now, it's only used with the accusative case. So it always is going to mean up or back again, because that's the only case it's used with. Okay. And I've got more than one source for it. Anu, this is a rare one. I've found about 4, 5, 6 times, something like that. But the meaning is without or besides the case it's used with the ablative case. It's the only case it's used with. Now, what is the lexicon going to tell you that this is used with? What case is it going to tell you it's used with? Help me out. Like Thayer or Barrett and Gingrich. What is they going to say? It's used with what case?
Genitive.
Yes, because they're 5-case men. All of your lexicons are 5-case. They're going to say it's genitive of source. Okay, but that's the same as ablative. So be careful about it. Someone will quote that and say, well, that's not ablative. The lexicon says it's genitive. Well, that shows they don't understand the difference between 5 and 8 cases. Okay, or different cases. We have nominative, genitive, ablative, dative, instrumental, locative, vocative. We have 7, I guess. Nominative, genitive, ablative, dative, instrumental, locative, vocative, accusative, vocative, 8 cases. Yeah. So they don't understand the 8 cases. Now, a very interesting thing is one of the Greek authorities I have, that is Nun, N-U-N-N, he has 7 cases. Okay, he doesn't have 8. Okay, Auntie, the reason I have a bunch of quotes on it, it becomes very important in 1 Corinthians 11 and the women wearing a head covering. Okay, Apo only goes with the ablative. Okay, it's found 646 times. It's pretty important if it's found that much in the New Testament. All right, Ater is only found twice. And it goes with the genitive according to Thayer. But again, Thayer, it could be ablative. And of course, Robertson tells us it's ablative. The A goes with the accusative. When it goes with the accusative, it means because of, for the sake of. But when it's with the genitive case, it means through. So it goes with either the accusative or the genitive. Okay. So some of them will go with more than one case. Now this is in your toward the end of this file. You can get the page numbers here in a minute. But ACE, remember that's EI, epsilon iota is like A in rain, ACE. And ICE, if you pronounce it ICE, I'm not going to get upset. There's a lot of them pronounce it as ICE. It goes only with the accusative case. See, doesn't go with any other cases. Let me come down to another one, N, right here. Now this one is used in 3 different cases, but Thayer will only say 1 because he'll use it dative case. It can be with the locative case, it can be with the instrumental case, or it can be with the locative or instrumental. Those are your 2 cases. Okay, it's used with 2 cases. Okay. Any questions there? I don't know how many times it's found. 2,752 times. That's something you better learn. That's a bunch of times. So do you see, you have to look and see what case of noun it's used with, sometimes with some of these. And so sometimes they'll have different meanings. And the root meaning won't follow through necessarily. Okay. I've gone over, but we're trying to cover this as much as we can. I'm going to go back to our book. We'll start here with section 221 next Monday night. And are there questions before we get out of the class? Does that help a bit on the usage of those prepositions? Any questions about the prepositions? All right. Okay, we're gonna stop the class right now. Get out of it, and let me get out of it. We gotta